Working on it.
Okay. We are live now all over the place.
Oh my God, we're live everywhere. Welcome to Mark Bell's Power Project, everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in to the David Goggins episode that aired on YouTube. I think it'll be available maybe later today or tomorrow on iTunes.
So tomorrow morning it'll be available on iTunes.
Tomorrow morning it'll be available on iTunes. So appreciate everybody that's listening to that. Also appreciate all the support on my birthday. I got so many birthday wishes. My ass turned 42 years old. 30 years of lifting, as many of you guys have seen me talk about or heard me talk about before. Appreciate all the support with the gangster wraps. The gangster flex wraps went absolutely bonkers. The gangster knee wraps went absolutely bonkers. So thank you guys so much for going over to markbellslingshot.com and picking up the wraps and supporting us. And that's, you guys see the cars, you guys see the advancement in the company, and you see all the stuff, and it's all because of you guys. Without fans and without customers, I ain't got nothing. So, I'm happy and excited to make great products, but I'm even happier and more excited that you guys are pumped about it. And it's great to get feedback from you guys about these products that we're creating. Today, I wanted to talk about a few things, and number one is I wanted to kind of talk about this 30 years of lifting. I'm not going to go over every single thing that's happened over the years, but I'm going to kind of give you guys, I guess, a peek into, what these 30 years have kind of looked like. Because I think a lot of people, they hear the stories or they see me lifting and maybe they don't understand how long I've been doing it. And then some people do understand, but maybe they don't know, how I've been able to kind of avoid injury and how I've been able to just do it for so long. So I'll explain some of that. I think something that's helped me hold on for such a long time was that I learned powerlifting at a very young age. I started lifting at around 11, 12 years old, and I'm 42 now. And some of the lessons I learned them early on. And I learned that you had to have proper form and technique, and all the way to the point where I wasn't allowed to do exercises at all unless I performed them correctly. All the way to the point where I would try to put more weight on the bar and somebody else in the gym would come over and slide the weights off and just dump them right on the ground. And, I was a young kid in the gym and at that time I wasn't 12. I did some of my lifting in the early years in the basement of our garage. And my dad bought us equipment and stuff, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I went to Mid Hudson Bodybuilding in Poughkeepsie, New York, and when I started lifting and started getting into all this stuff, I wanted to be strong, and so I'd warm up with 135 as everybody does, and then I would very quickly put on too much weight and squirm around the bench and look like a bug that's underneath a magnifying glass from some kid trying to fry it with the rays of the sun. And I would pitter patter all around. My feet would go crazy. My butt would come off the bench. I would be all herky jerky with the weight, and I'd lock out on one side, and then I'd lock out on the other with, 185 pounds or 205 pounds or whatever the weight was at the time. And I thought that was lifting. I thought that's how you lifted heavy weights. My brothers always told me different, but you're not going to listen to your brothers. You're not going to listen to family, right? Your dad goes to show you something when you're a kid. You don't listen to him. You do it your own way. And so, guys at the gym, they had Mid Hudson Bodybuilding. They were pretty rough around the edges. Everyone was into the same thing at that time. And also in this area that I grew up in, Poughkeepsie, New York, everyone was into steroids. Everybody was into being big and jacked. Everybody wanted to be strong, and there wasn't a lot of people that were into like a lot of variations of fitness. It was just like get bigger and get stronger and be more jacked. It was kind of the mission by almost everybody. So I kind of followed suit. But when I went to lift these heavier weights, these guys in the gym, they'd dump the weights on the ground, and they'd say, "Hey, you're not doing it right." Or sometimes they wouldn't even say anything to me, and I didn't even know what they were doing. I was like, "What the hell's going on?" And so, one time I actually asked the guy, I'm like, I don't know. I guess I don't know how to lift. Maybe you can just show me. And the guy was like, "Oh, I was dying for you to say that." And then the guy kind of showed me how to bench press, and he was like, this is how you do it. It's about a 2 count on the way down. You want to hold it on your chest, and then you want to press it back up. If you're ever going to compete in this, then you got to pause the weight anyway. And what they're looking for when you compete is that you control the weight. And it was kind of funny because I didn't really necessarily say anything about competing, but I already competed at the time, so I already knew better. But I didn't know better because I wanted to lift more weight. I wanted to like be more significant. I wanted to like stand out in the gym, and I thought this was going to be the best way to do it. And it's not. It's not a good way to do it. It's a good way to get hurt, and it's a good way to go backwards. And so what you have to realize from lifting heavy weights is that 3 things can happen. You can make it, you can miss it, or you can get hurt. And 2 out of those 3 things are bad, right? If you miss it, that sucks. If you get hurt, that's even worse. And then also too, in terms of making the lift, like that's not an assured thing that you're getting away from the lift pain free, right? How you do the lift is really important. And so what I'm going to tackle today and kind of uncover is this parallel between lifting and life, and how they really I say it all the time on this podcast, but they parallel each other. They cross over each other in so many different ways. Do things right in the gym, and it adds up to something. It turns into something, and all of a sudden, somebody's like, "Holy shit! I didn't know you're capable of that." We see the same thing happen in your day-to-day life when you do the small things. When you take advantage of the small things in life that can make you better, that can make you more successful, you end up out in front of people, and people are like, "How the hell did that guy do that? That's unbelievable! I can't believe that guy did that." Never expecting him to be able to do that, but there he is. Before I dive into that, I want to talk about this story because I have not talked about this story before in this particular way on this podcast. So, the last couple of days and maybe over the last like week and a half or so, I've been very I've been going back into the time capsule a little bit. My brother passed, and it's been 10 years since he died, and there's been a lot to think about and a lot to unpack with a lot of that stuff. On the 14th of December, it will be the 10-year anniversary of him passing away. And as I started to think back to some of these things that have happened over the years, my brother Chris was, very upset, and he was, and I mentioned this on a previous podcast already, the podcast Chris was on, but I actually thought about it a lot more, and I got in conversation with my wife about it. And, Chris kind of said, like, man, I really wish Mad Dog saw what you built. He's like, he'd be so proud. And I agree. Yeah, he would be very proud. The actual truth is, though, that if Mad Dog didn't pass, I wouldn't have built what I built. So, and I've talked about this a lot of times on this podcast, and that didn't even sink in until my own wife told me. She's like, who knows, maybe you would have never built all this if that didn't happen. There's your setback, right? Your setback is a setup for something great. And so as tragic as that was for our family to go through, Mike actually has told me before. He told me to my face, he's like, if I'm the one that has to take the bullets for this family and be the representation of all that is bad and what not to do, then so be it. I don't know if he had to be that person for all of us to understand that some of the things that he did were bad, but that's the way that it went down, and that's the way that it was, and it did teach me at a very young age, like, hey, man, like, that shit's serious. It wasn't just mom and dad saying, hey, drugs are bad. It was me seeing it firsthand. It was eating away at my brother, and it like rotted him down to the bone, almost like you would see cancer rot somebody away, right? And so it's a tragic story. It was horrible, but as I said before, the setback is really a setup towards something great. As I was thinking back into some of these things, I started thinking about some other stories. I thought about these stories from when we were kids, and there's a story of my brother Mike. He was aggressive, and he got into fights, and he'd pick on other kids and things like that. And my mom, told him one day that he got picked on too. So he was usually defending himself. Kids would call him fat and stuff like that. And so he was, I don't know, he was telling my mom something about how he made fun of some kid or something like that. And she was like, "Oh, I don't like to hear that." She's like, "You shouldn't be saying that." She goes, "How would you like it if someone called you fat?" And he just broke down into tears, like crying like a little baby. And he was probably like 10. He's probably a little bit too old to cry like that. But he was a sore loser in that way. And then I remember another story. I don't actually remember the story, but I just remember being told the story because I was a little bit too young. But my mom and dad, I think they got us like, I don't know, an Atari or something. I don't know how far back it dates. I don't know what video game console it was. But they got us a video game console, and all of us were so excited. As a kid, you wake up super early for Christmas. You're all fired up and you're excited. We open up our presents. We get this video game console, and we're all excited. And Mad Dog makes fun of Chris. He's like, "You peed your pants." Because Chris had like a pee stain. We're all like in our pajamas. Apparently, I peed my pants, but the funniest part was that Mad Dog peed his pants too. And so all three of us were so excited that we pissed ourselves over the video game console that we got.
You don't remember which one it was, though? Was it the Nintendo?
I don't remember because I think Nintendo, I think we would all be a little bit older. So I think it might have been something a little earlier than that. Might have been like Atari or ColecoVision for those of you that remember that. Now for the Nintendo story. So Andrew's heard this before, but I don't know how many of you have heard this before. And because we have a cartoonist now that makes these things into cartoons, I thought, what a wonderful cartoon this will make. So me and Chris are like wrestling, like we're messing around, and we're at the top of the stairs in our house. And Chris pushes me, I push him. I'm getting a little stronger and stuff. Chris is, about 4 years older than me, and he's pretty stout. He's pretty strong. He's already been working out for a few years. I've been working out too, but he's got a little extra time under the barbell than I do, and he's older. And he was just hard to move. He's tough to try to manhandle because he was so short and stocky. And so he and I are wrestling, and I kind of get the better of him, and I grab him one way. And then I think I'm doing good, but I think he's just trying to play possum kind of and try to show me like that he's not paying attention. And then he sneaks one in on me kind of thing. And so I went to kind of throw him one way, and then he tossed me the other. And my big ass butt, I got a big old padunkadunk back there. My butt slams into the wall and just like dents in the wall. It dents in the sheetrock. And I was like, oh shit. And so me and my brother just stop and we freeze and like, Dad's going to flip out. Those people that know my dad now, he's a much different person than when we were growing up. He was still the same loving guy. He was still a lot of fun and he was an amazing dad. But he was just under a lot more stress back then. He had 3 kids to raise, he had a family to provide for. And so, he was working a lot. And I think he got to a point sometimes where he felt like unappreciated. And so we're like, oh man, it's kind of at a level, like it's kind of low, it's like waist high. So like maybe he won't see it, but it's clearly a freaking dent in the wall, It's not a hole in the wall, but it's the wall is definitely smushed in. But it was also in a spot where we couldn't put a picture over it or whatever. It'd be really odd to have a picture that low.
Move like a plant in the way or something.
Yeah, and we couldn't because it was like right around where the stairs are. And so the bad part is as you came up the stairs and as you went to kind of go around like to where my parents' room was, you were at eye level with this butt dent that was in the wall. And so you're definitely going to see it coming up the stairs, but we were just kind of hoping for the best and just pretending that it never happened, That's what you do as a kid. Like with your homework, you just pretend that it doesn't exist, and so therefore you don't ever do it, right? And so my dad comes home and we're like, oh shit. But so my brother and I are playing Tecmo Bowl. Mad Dog's in the room too, but me and Chris are playing. And my dad comes home. He comes up the stairs. He's going to change for work. And we're just thinking, oh shit, I hope he doesn't see it. And he goes, what is this? And when you're a kid and you're in trouble and you hear like an authority figure, like a principal or a police officer or anybody, they get that voice, your grandfather or whoever it is, your dad, and that voice just goes right through your chest and your freaking heart sinks down in your stomach. It was one of those moments. We were like, no. And he's like, what happened? And like, we're not answering him because no one wants to say anything. Now, what we should have done, we came home, we should have said, Dad, we were messing around, and I'm so sorry. We busted the wall. Like, is there something we can do to help with that? Or like, that would have been the reasonable, mature thing to do. But we're little shit kids that probably are not appreciating how hard he works. And he's not getting any answers from anybody. He's getting more and more frustrated. He goes, you want to break my shit? He's like, I'm going to break your shit. And he grabs a Nintendo. My brother and I still have the controllers in our hands. He rips it out of the wall and throws it right out the window. Me and my brother, in just total disbelief, our jaws hit the ground, but we still have the controllers in our hands somehow. And my dad's like, no more video games or something. He just storms out. He just storms out of the room.
How high was the window, like to the ground?
It was probably a good 20-foot drop. It was like a 2-story house or so 15, 20 feet, something like that. My brother and I, we reluctantly peer over the side to try to look out the window, and the thing's just, the Nintendo's not doing so well. It's in a million pieces, but the main part of the console is still together, but like the top blew off and a couple other pieces broke off the side, and you could see the computer chips in there and all that kind of stuff. And we're just looking at each other like, oh my God. But we're not concerned that we're in trouble. That's like the least of our concerns. Our concern is the Nintendo. Like, how are we going to get this thing back? That's what's really going through our heads. Because my dad, he's going to calm down and he'll be fine. He'll sort it out, and we'll just tell him we're sorry, and that'll be that. So that night, me and my brother started talking, and we're like, oh shit, the garbage goes out to the road tonight. And then the garbage truck's going to come tomorrow. We're like, we're screwed. We're going to lose that Nintendo forever because it's in the garbage already. And so me and my brother, we brought the garbage out that night, and my dad's like, you better not get that Nintendo. And we're like, shit. He kind of foiled our plans. Like, we wanted to get the Nintendo. So we waited and waited and waited, and I think he like went to bed or did some work on a computer or something like that. And we snuck out, got the Nintendo out of there, and put it away for a little bit, and then we brought it out like a couple days later after hopefully he kind of forgot about it. People would come over our house and they just look at us and they go, dude, what in the world happened to Nintendo? We're like, it's kind of a long story, but man, that thing looked like it went through a war, but it still worked.
There you go.
It still worked. I mean, we had to blow on the cartridge and get it positioned just right, but I think everybody else had to do that too.
We all had to do that.
Yeah. But the cool part was that we had a unique Nintendo.
Yeah.
Because it didn't have a top on it anymore, so people could see all the computer chips in there and shit.
I mean, at that point, I think that's when you realize like there's nothing that you couldn't do, right?
Yeah, there's no mountain, mountain we can't climb.
Yeah,
savage. We can overcome anything as long as we stick together.
There you go.
So anyway, yeah, those are some of the stories I've been kind of kicking around, and some of the things I've been thinking about over the last couple days and couple weeks, and you guys that are familiar with our YouTube channel, make sure you check that out this Friday, because we have a tribute that's going out to Mad Dog this week. And Mad Dog was the ringleader of us getting that Nintendo back, so that was a big deal to us at the time. But anyway, you're gonna love the what we put together video wise. We filmed my brother, myself, my dad, my mom, talking about my big bro. So you guys will enjoy that a lot. Shifting gears. So you guys heard me talk about this before. You got the resistance of life and you got the resistance in the gym. How many times and how many different ways can we talk about that? We're going to try to figure that out. What I really identify with is the stability that you have to possess in order to squat a big weight. Filipino Thunder, my boy Marcus, squatted 870 pounds. Back when that was raw with just some knee wraps on. Back when I was lifting some heavy ass weights, and back when I was squatting those big weights, it took a lot of balance and it took a lot of stability. And you're not going to squat 1,000 pounds. You're not going to squat 900 pounds raw on these big weights. You're not going to be able to do those things unless you're prepared for them. But you have to have stability. And the only way you're going to have stability is to do a lot of the things that you don't really want to do. a lot of the ab work, a lot of the lower back work, a lot of the core work. Marcus is always in here stretching. He's always working on keeping his hips opened up and all these different things. And why is that? Because he knows that if he gets under 870 pounds and his knees cave in a little bit, well, there goes his lower back, or maybe in his knee. A lot of times when that knee caves in, the back will round over. You notice a lot of times on your deadlifts when your knee caves in a little bit on a conventional or a sumo deadlift, that knee caves in a little bit, what happens? That lower back rounds. Anytime there's going to be internal rotation, there's going to be flexion of the spine, right? You see it time and time again. You see it happen over and over again. But the instability comes from not doing your work. And the stability that you have going through stuff in life is going to be important. And how do you gain stability in life? You gain stability through going through things. So a lot of people that are older, they have more wisdom. But only do you have more wisdom if you learn from your mistakes. You got to learn from the experiences that you go through in your life. Allow your history to be a school for you. Allow your past to be a school, and don't allow your past to be a hammer. Don't allow it to be something that you beat yourself over the head with. Allow it to be a learning tool. And what you'll learn from years and years of lifting is that over a period of time, when you prove to yourself time and time again that you can come out on top. Let's say that you said to yourself, you know what? I want to do this for a set of 20 reps, and I want to do it within the next 3 months. Well, maybe the first time you try it, you do it for 12, and you're like, oh, maybe I set my goal too high. Like, how am I going to be able to do that for 20 reps? I only did it for 12. Next time you do it for 15. Next time you do it for 17. Next time you're like, wow, 3 extra singles at the end, and I'm at 20 reps. And then sure enough, 3 months down the road, you hit your goal and you do that lift for 20 reps. Or you hit that big single and you prove to yourself, you're like, I didn't think I could do that before. What an awesome feeling that is to have in your day-to-day life of, man, I'm not so sure I can do that. But when you start to recognize that you have the ability to learn and adapt to anything, that's really all it is adaptation. And all human beings were built and designed for adaptation. That's like primarily what we're made for, is to be able to adapt to different environments. If we go outside and it's too cold, guess what happens? We get the chills, right? Our teeth start to chatter, right? All kinds of things start to happen in our body that are almost like automatic. It gets hot out, we sweat. Why do we sweat? Well, our body's trying to cool down. Our body has these kind of automatic responses to things. And in your pursuit to try to be better, all you have to continue to do is make sure that you have the stability to move forward. Do you know the material? Have you done your homework? If you do know the material, you can progress forward. And that's a huge difference between self-education versus going to school. Going to school, your teacher gives you a test, but for self-education, you give yourself a test. And you're like, I ain't going to talk about this until I really know it, because I'm going to sound like an idiot. We had Dr. Lane Norton on yesterday and Dr. Sean Baker. You think I'm going to try to get sciencey with either one of those guys? I ain't going to do that. Those guys read a lot, man. And I don't read nothing. I've never read one book except for Bo Knows Bo. Bo, where you at? We need you on here, Bo. I only read one book and it's yours.
That's huge praise then.
Yeah, means
awesome.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was even dumber back then than I am now. That was a long time ago.
But you could fix a Nintendo.
I know. We could soup up that Nintendo and keep that bitch running.
Yeah.
But I heard somebody talk about this the other day, and they said, you're trying to make yourself be a force. You're trying to be like an unstoppable force and an immovable object. And it might sound weird. It might sound like overkill. Like, wow, that's a pretty crazy statement. But think about how euphoric you feel. Think about how good you feel when you're in the middle of your workout, or when you're at rep number 12 and you're going to get that, you're going to finish the set out strong. You're going to get that 15th rep. Some of the powerlifters are like, why are we doing so many reps? But you're going to be able to finish the rep. You do feel unstoppable at times. You get done with a great workout, you hit a big PR, man, you feel like you could stop a bullet. Now, you probably can't, but you feel that way. You feel empowered. You feel amazing, and it's because you overcame an obstacle. And that's the whole part about lifting that to me makes the most sense on why it is so important. You can make the lift, you can miss it, or you can get hurt. So like what options do we have as we're trying to lift heavier weight? We can't avoid heavy weight. We can't avoid it's part of who a lot of us are. A lot of us that are into lifting. And a lot of us that are into pushing, whether it's with running or triathlons or climbing, climbing a mountain or whatever it is that you're into. A lot of us don't have the ability to not chalk up. We don't have the ability to not go over to that chalk bowl and to talk ourselves into doing something that we otherwise normally wouldn't be able to do. I saw this happen yesterday. Dr. Sean Baker, he threw a 20-pound ball up towards the ceiling, and he didn't hit the ceiling. It's like, damn it. Then he went over to our chalk bowl. He got some magic chalk. He came back, and he nailed the ceiling. What's the difference? Some magnesium carbonate on his hands? No. That little jaunt over to the chalk bowl was a conversation of, look, dude, you can do this. Mark's watching. They're filming this shit for YouTube. Like, get your shit together. You're the carnivore. You're the carnivore diet guy. You're supposed to be representing strength and health, and you're promoting this diet and promoting this and that, and you can't even throw a 20-pound ball to the ceiling? And so he came back, and sure enough, he slammed it up against the top of the roof. Almost blew the roof off a super training gym. But there's a lot of people that may not want to go that route in their life. They may not want to chalk up. They may not want to have to dig deep. But life is going to lead you in that direction no matter what happens. Life is going to lead you there no matter what happens. We're going to have tragedy. We're going to have people die. We're going to be sick. We're going to be burdened with things. Life ends up, there's always going to be some misery in life. There's a lot of happiness. There's a lot of joy. There's a lot of great things to be excited about. There's a lot of great things to live on for. But there's also a lot of things that are sad and that just suck and that you don't have any control over. So you're going to have to chalk up for some of those sets. As C.T. Fletcher says, it's still your motherfucking set. He actually said it to me on my birthday. He made a post and he just simply said, hey, Mark Bell, it's still your motherfucking set. And that is a great mindset to be in. That's a great frame of mind to lock into. That is how you should treat your day-to-day. Think about how amazing this is. If you do a set and you work hard and you push through and a lot of blood comes into the muscle and you push through and past the pain, what do you end up getting? You push through the pain and you end up getting those gains, right? And when you get those gains, that's part of the reason why you're there. You want to have more muscle. You want to be stronger. How does that parallel to everything in life? It directly does. It directly parallels everything to life because what you're going to do in the outside world is surrounded with growth as well. If you don't continue to grow, then you're not going to have anything to show. You have to continue to grow. You have to continue to evolve. And all the people that work in this company, it's really great to watch everyone grow. It's great to watch everyone expand. It's great to watch everybody push through. Andrew right now is not feeling 100%. But he's like, fuck it, man. We're going in. We're going all in with the podcast. Hopefully he's not sick. Hopefully it's something that will pass. But we got to push through, right?
Yeah, it has to be something I ate today. Yeah. So sorry to everyone in the chat room looking at the comments scroll up and down. It's making me dizzy, so I'm not really too active in there today. That's how bad it is right now. But no, man, I do love doing this podcast, and right now you're just talking about going to the chalk bowl. That's basically what I'm having to do right now, just to get through it. We'll be fine though.
Right, and like when you have to do a gut check and you have to kind of check yourself and see like. It's all the same conversations you'd have in lifting.
Yeah.
Like, am I actually doing okay? Like you do a deadlift and you put the weight down. And you're like, wow, I almost passed out. But wait a second. There's another set to do. Am I okay? And you're like, yeah, okay, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm good. I can I can go do another set. You're like, I'm gonna make it through. I'm gonna be okay. And the form and the technique that we practice, we're always trying to have the proper form and technique with these lifts. And our form will break down in a deadlift. Our form will break down in a squat. Our form will break down in a bench. And then what happens? A lot of times we get hurt, or a lot of times we are super, super sore. Those of you that are kind of newer to lifting, you'll know what I'm talking about. You go to do a deadlift and you round over every single time you deadlift, your lower back is going to be really, really sore. If you're a more advanced lifter, you can plow right through that workout and you're going to be totally fine. Because your form and technique is correct. And when your form and technique is on point, you're working different muscles and you're exercising almost in a completely different way. Your efficiency is better and you'll be less fatigued. You'll be less fatigued from life when you learn to become more efficient with the things that you do. You learn to become more efficient with your sleep. You learn to become more efficient with your work ethic. Working on something for 4 hours is great, but it's only great if you are efficient. You have to figure out how can you be more efficient. Well, you have to practice, and you have to practice working on habits that will advance you, habits that will make you go faster. You want to ignore the things that haven't helped you, the things that you've tried, and you're like, that doesn't work. And the things that you've tried, you honestly gave it a real shot, and you actually tried it. Let's say it's with diet. You're like, intermittent fasting didn't work for me. I overate too much. Keto didn't work great for me because I wasn't able to stick with it. But this particular diet, that worked for me. Well, keep that and stay there. And if you hear stuff from other people, that's great to acquire more knowledge. But then think to yourself, is that practical for me to actually try? Or am I making pretty good progress on my own right now? Am I doing well on my own? Can I just stay right here for now? These are the things you got to think about because there's no reason for you to go hopping around from one program to the next. I see a lot of people doing that with their training. They're like, I'm doing 5 sets of 5 this week, and I'm going to do it for the next 3 weeks. I'm going to increase the weight, and then next thing you know, they're hopping on somebody else's workout because they saw somebody, Kaylor Woolham. They saw him deadlift 940 pounds, and that's the program they're following. And now they're going to hop over to this program and back over to that program. And it's like, pick something, try to stick with it for a period of time, and see how it works. Same thing with a book that you might be reading. Don't go hopping to another book until you finish the one that you're reading. Don't go hopping from one thing to the next because you're going to kind of scramble your brains in the process. You're going to be able to really process and focus in and hone in on one thing at a time. And you don't want too much noise from the outside world, kind of seeping through. And so it's not just about making it. It's not just about being able to finish a book or being able to complete a podcast. It's about what are you going to be able to get from it? What can you extract from it? It's not about just making the lift. It's about what did you gain from it? Did you gain anything from it? Was the load heavy enough for you to even have any gains from it? Was the book challenging enough for you to even make any progress off of it? Was the course that you took hard enough for you to make progress off of it? Or are you just kind of coasting through life and just coasting through these sets and you're kind of going through the motions type thing? Because we've all had workouts like that. And man, that feels incredibly dissatisfying. That almost feels worse than not working out at all. When you go to the gym and you have a half-hearted effort, you're like, shit, man. I don't feel great about the effort that I put in. But part of what I'm after and part of what I think a lot of other people are after is this ability to be stable and strong enough to be able to exert force on the rest of the world. And when you think about like going in the gym and lifting, yes, I'm putting in some work and I got force against the weights that I'm lifting. But I want to be able to have force against the rest of the world, not even necessarily against the rest of the world, but also to exert force with the rest of the world and with people and be behind people and be somebody that people can lean on, so to speak, right? But no one can lean on me if I'm not strong enough. I need to be able to show time and time again that I'm reliable. I can handle resistance. And when people see that in you, they're going to say, okay, that's the guy to go to for that. That guy's going to be there for that. That guy's going to hold tight for that. A lot of times when these guys and girls at Super Training Gym, even with my schedule, a lot of times I'm right there for a lot of their bigger lifts. Andrew made a post the other day of him deadlifting, a few different weights, and like I was like in each picture, and then I was like, and then the previous Instagram post was your 225 bench, and I'm like, man, that's so cool to like actually be there for that. And somebody else might be like, oh, well, just a 225 bench, but that's not what it's about. It's about that. It's about the process of watching somebody grow, because it's not about where you start. It's about where you finish.
Yeah, and I mean, it was a trip because I was looking at some of the pictures that Pear had taken, and I was like, oh shit, I forgot that we actually had a little deadlift session out there in Malibu. And yeah, there was one picture that I wanted to post. Is where I got stuck. It was like at 245 or something, and you actually got down and you like helped me lift it
Oh
up.
yeah,
You got down on one knee, and
proposed.
I said yes to deadlifting that weight. So yeah, I mean those pictures are really special for me too. But I can't even imagine like actually seeing somebody that you've been coaching go from 135 to now 300. Like that's got to be pretty cool.
Oh, it's amazing, and it's like I've coached people to all kinds of different things, and it's getting older is a really crazy thing, because you kind of think that you've seen everything, you think you've seen it all, but then you continue to see stuff that proves to you that you haven't seen it all, and it gets to be you get to be in some really interesting spots. I mean, I've coached and mentored and helped people to all kinds of things, and then sometimes to see the way their behavior, sometimes it's great, and you're like, oh hell yeah, like that person really got it. That's cool. And then other times I've been like scratching my head, going, man, like I kind of feel like I kind of feel like I'm like in Star Wars, and like somebody
Right.
used their powers for the wrong thing rather than for the right thing. And I'm like, man, you feel like you built like a Darth Vader or something. You're like,
Hmm.
man, I was hoping they would go more Luke Skywalker with their actions, but sometimes they kind of veer off, and you're like, man, that's kind of disappointing to see.
Yeah, bummer. Although the dark side has been calling.
The dark side's
The dark
calling.
side. Yeah, but we're talking about the other dark side.
Mm-hmm. Wait, what?
The enhanced side.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah.
There's and when it comes to making these parallels, you have no choice but to try to lift a heavier load. You got no choice but to try to get after it. There's not a lot of great ways. We cannot sell you on, hey, this is gonna be like a wonderful thing. It's gonna be uncomfortable. Like Andrew lifts with me, and he'll lift less weight than me, but it's not any less uncomfortable. I know, like some days I'll wake up and I'll go, oh my god, I am torched, and I'm like, I think about Andrew, and I'm like, Andrew must be dying. I was like, he must have really got killed. And but we're probably we're probably feeling most of the same things, especially at this point, because
Hmm.
we've been hitting similar movements for long enough. It's not like we're going out and doing 20, 40-yard sprints. That would kill both of us, and it'd be a matter of like who's in better shape to be able to handle that.
Yeah. Well, that one the CrossFit workout that
Oh
we
yeah,
did was pretty tough, but we both bounced back pretty quickly.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. We're both
there
in
are
pretty good shape.
some workouts where I'm just like, oh shit, like we'll see what happens tomorrow. Hopefully, Mark's like he calls for a day off or something. But I mean, for the most part, when you say like something crushes you, I kind of feel it too. And then there's been a couple times where you're like, oh my god, my face hurts from that chest workout or something, and I'm like, I feel pretty good. I'm not too bad. So yeah, it's pluses and minuses. Certain days.
Yeah, you're going. We're still, we're both putting in a good effort.
Hmm.
we're both trying. We're both trying to put in the best effort possible, and that's kind of the point. I mean, we know that we're going to miss sometimes, but it's about proving yourself over and over again. And you know, people that continually talk themselves uh, people that continually talk themselves into doing stuff that they really don't want to do, but they know is good for them. It's like it's for the overall good of themselves, like going for a walk, eating properly, lifting weights. You're gonna come out in front a million times over, and you're gonna prove to yourself over and over again, and you're gonna prove to people around you that you can come back. You can keep coming back. How many times have you guys seen me come back into powerlifting? And how many times have you guys seen me, come back and put in a good effort? I haven't always hit every lift that I wanted to hit, but for the most part, I've done just about everything I've wanted to do with powerlifting. Right now, I got the goal of possibly coming back and hitting a 500-pound bench at 220. I don't want to force that too much because I don't want to put myself in a position to get hurt. But it appears that everything's headed in the right direction for now, and we'll kind of see how it all shakes out in the next couple weeks. Feeling good, feeling strong, feeling like I can do it, and the strength is starting to rebuild, and I can actually feel it, and I feel like it's time to kind of kick it up a notch.
Do you think sucking down to 220 is going to be a problem at all? I know you said you don't think so, but as far as like dropping down and then still having the strength to do the 500-pound bench.
My body doesn't really like to weigh 220 at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
But when I first got down to 240, my body didn't like being 240 either. So it just might take a little bit longer than I want to admit. Like I think in terms of like strength wise, I would like to be able to be in the neighborhood of that strength around the ST Classic time. Have decided that I'm just going to compete in that anyway, and I'm just going to, maybe have Smokey or Marcus or somebody pick my attempts, and if it looks like I'm there, then I'm there, and if it doesn't look like I'm there, then I'm just going to lift and have fun, and hopefully lift with a bunch of you guys, and just have a good day, just have fun, and when I bench 500 pounds, I'd like to have a little bit more in the tank, so it's not like this real roll of the dice, like am I going to blow off another pack or something like that.
Yeah.
So I do think that getting to 220 will be challenging, because even through that bodybuilding show, I only weighed 220 for like 10 seconds.
That's what I was going to ask. In comparison, when you were shredded, what was your weight?
Yeah, it's weird, but like my body composition is just different. I didn't get it measured, so I don't know what it was, and I don't know what it is, but I was 230 and 235 consistently, but at one point I weighed 220. That was intentional. Like Hani Rambad had me really, really pull back on a lot of the calories and a lot of the carbohydrates, and I did a lot of cardio, and I was just super dehydrated. So that wasn't true weight. That was like maybe 10 pounds, maybe probably like 6 pounds lighter or somewhere in that range, 6 or 8 pounds lighter than I would have normally been. So it's kind of even hard to say that, but like, yeah, getting out of 220, regardless, is going to be very difficult. I mean, that's starting to get into. I weighed around 240 when I was 16, so for me to be 220 is really uncommon. Now I will only weigh 220 for a little bit, because I'll just weigh the right weight for the weigh-in, and then
that's it,
and then be done with it.
Yeah, would it make any? I guess not, because you're going to be, again, just for that quick weigh-in. But like, if you're going for the bench, would you lay off doing leg work just so that way you can drop some size?
Maybe that is kind of something I've been thinking about, because like I've been attempting to lose weight, but I've been lifting heavy, and it's like not working great. But like a lot of times that'll settle itself, and the extra calories that your legs consume from being big is actually kind of a good thing. I know what you mean though, but yeah, like even just the act of squatting kind of keeps you big.
Yeah.
But I also don't think, I'm going to lose some muscle dropping some weight. But I don't think I want to like intentionally go out of my way to. I actually did think about pulling back on a day of lifting, because right now we squat and deadlift every week, and I was thinking about just rotating 1 week we squat, 1 week we deadlift, go back and forth between those, or maybe when I have you guys deadlift, maybe I'm doing something slightly different.
Mm-hmm.
That was something I considered where it's like I probably in terms of being able to put more into the bench, I'd probably be better off that way. I could have a little bit better of a workout.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the since the ST Classic is just a push pull, maybe we can just focus on those two movements, and then the squat day being more of like a higher rep range instead of the higher
Right.
weights.
Right. Yeah, just so it doesn't kill us as bad, right?
Yeah.
The other thing that you learn from lifting though is how to turn a shitty day into something. And I think that's a lot of education comes from that process of, you go to work out and you go to do a movement and like, you're for whatever reason, I don't know, you slept weird and your shoulder's killing you. Jesse Burdick checking in, Sacramento. Well, now you have to audible and you got to think of like, how am I going to salvage this day? One way to salvage the day is to come up with something slightly different for you to do. So your shoulder hurts, you're on the bench, and you're like, okay, well maybe I can board press. And you try to board press, you're like, oh shit, my shoulder still hurts. All right, well maybe I can slingshot bench, or maybe I can dumbbell bench. You find something that you can audible to and still end up with a decent workout. One way that you can always ensure that you feel good is to try something different. Try something new for the day. That's one way that you can always end up with a PR. Like if you never did a close grip incline bench for a set of 5, you can do that for the day. Let's say that you had in your head, okay, I'm going to bench 315 on an incline bench, and I want to, that's my goal. And you start warming up, and like 275 is like it nearly killed you. You're like, holy shit. Okay. 315 ain't happening for whatever reason. Maybe you were sick the week before, or maybe you're not feeling well or whatever. Well, now you can make an audible, and you can say, okay, I'm going to do 3 sets of 5, and I'm going to change the weight up. And you do 3 sets of 5, and you use 245 pounds or 225 pounds. And maybe you throw in some tempo training too. You slow down the way that you lift the weight. But you still got a lot of work in, and you still feel really good about what you did because the effort is still there. And yeah, the strength wasn't there. You didn't do exactly what you wanted to do. But as I always say, you didn't get dressed up for nothing, right? You're already ready to work out. You already did all the things that are involved in getting your ass prepared, getting your ass ready for the gym. You did all these things, and now you're there, and you might as well put in the best effort that you possibly can. And so you just audible and you switch up your workout a little bit. You do something slightly different. It's not the exact plan that you came in with, but it's something that's just a little bit different.
Yeah, be like Papa Bell and set PRs every day by doing something new.
That's right. Yeah, my dad is crazy with his workouts. My brother saw my dad lifting the other day, and he was like, he's like, Dad lifts like a maniac. And I said, yeah, I know. I don't know what his problem is. And I was like, I've tried to, talk to him about his, just slow it down a little bit. And I said, but I think he just gets fired up and he just wants to get after it. So I don't want to slow down the enthusiasm, but he listens to this podcast. So Dad, you got to have a little bit better form out there, a little bit better technique. He's probably just thinking, screw it, man. I'm just going to go for it. He's like, these kids don't know what they're talking about.
Back in my day.
Yeah. Back in my day. My dad has been talking a lot lately about being gymless, and I think that's amazing. That's a funny way of wording it. But he's like, I've been gymless for 69 years. He's like, I don't know what I've been doing with myself. I'm like, me and Chris have been trying to tell you that, and Mike have been trying to tell you that for the last, I don't know how long, for many, many, many years. We've been telling him that. And getting your ass to the gym and it can change your life. I've talked about this before. I feel that the people that are involved in fitness are in on a secret. We got the quote unquote magic pill. If anybody was ever able to figure out how to lock up the benefits of exercise and sell it to you as a pill, it would be the greatest pharmaceutical drug ever created. Because what it does, and it's funny because it's sold so short of what it really is. Like, oh, this is good for your heart. This is good for your muscles. It's good for your brain. It's good for everything. It really causes a large cascade of positive things in your body that allow you to grow. And I always found in powerlifting, trying to figure out ways of salvaging the day has been something that has helped me salvage my day to day. It's allowed me to figure out, how do I turn this situation that's not so great into something better? How do I have a better perspective on something? How do I come at this from a different angle? In powerlifting, it's all about angles. In Michael Hearn's world, it's all about out angling people, but in powerlifting, it's all about those angles. I'm going to deadlift off the wagon wheels. I'm going to deadlift out of the rack. I'm going to do a good morning. I'm going to do a 45-degree back raise. Okay, I worked the back of my body. Now let me work more of the front of my body. Let me do some sit-ups and planks and weighted sit-ups. And okay, I worked the front. I worked the back. Now I'm going to work the side of my body. Okay, I'm going to do some. I'm gonna do some side bends. So all these movements. Okay, now I'm going to work my grip. So you worked the front of your body, you worked the back of your body, you worked the side of your body. Now you worked your grip. You did all these things to work your deadlift, but you attacked it from so many different angles. Well, what if you're in conversation with somebody and you start to get in an argument and you start to just fight back and forth and you just say, "You're stupid. I think that's dumb." Well, that's not a really good way to have somebody understand your vantage point or your point of view. You would be better off trying to figure out, okay, man, I really disagree with this person. Man, this is super annoying that they're talking like this right now. But let me take a deep breath and let me try to get this from a different angle. Let me try to understand their angle. Let me try to understand where they're coming from. And we start to understand where they're coming from. Well, now you have different perspective into what it is they're talking about. And you can say, okay, I don't agree with them, but I have a better understanding of what it is they're talking about. And that actually kind of makes sense. And that's where you can say to somebody, you can say something along these lines. You can say, you know what? I kind of agree with that, but here's what I think. And then you can kind of interject your own thoughts, and you can have a meaningful conversation. But if you just say that's dumb and you try to dead end it right there, I mean that's as similar as not working on the things you need to work on in the gym and hit them from a different angle. Somebody, working out is very simple a lot of times. Somebody might say, "Man, I have trouble locking out. I have a hard time locking out the bench." And then what do you say? Say, "Okay, well, work on the lockout of your bench." "Man, I can't keep my ass from coming up off the bench when I bench." Well, just keep your ass down on the bench. Mm-hmm. Well, how do I work on that? Do a lot of sets where your butt is on the bench. Do a lot of reps. Do a lot of repetitions when your butt is on the bench. Do a lot of repetitions where you're working on your lockout. Is this all sinking in? Is this all making sense? I mean, these are the repetitions that you're going to want to go through in your life to be better at something, to be better than you were yesterday, to be better than you were last week, to be better than you were last year. Why not start to set in motion for 2019, for 2020, for 2021, for 2022? Why not set the things in motion to have the finances that you want in your life? Why not start to set things in motion to have the relationship that you want to have in your life? Why not just it's just going to be one thing at a time. You can't do incline curls and squats at the same time. It's going to be one thing at a time. What are we working? Working on our biceps. When we're squatting, we're working on our squat, right? We're working on our quads. I mean, I know the squat, that's you're working a lot of other muscles. When you're doing a deadlift, you're working your back, right? I mean, there are other muscles involved in every single lift that you do, obviously, but there's primary muscles that are involved. The assistance exercises, all the little things that you do, that's where you get a moment to kind of work on your mind even a little bit more. You can hone in on your lifts, or you can hone in on some real world shit, some real world problems that you're going through. Maybe you're having a problem in your marriage, or maybe you're having a problem here or there. But you can hone in on those things and use your lifting as a form of therapy, and try to think about how are you gonna. You can kind of almost meditate through it, but you can lift through it. You can lift through anything. When you're doing your assistance exercise, when I'm doing my assistance exercises, a lot of times I'll use negative reinforcement as positive fuel. I'll use negative reinforcement. I'll take negative things that I've heard people say about me, and I'll put it all in a I'll put it all into a bag, and I'll chew it up, and I'll treat it as calories. I'll use it as energy for my body. The only energy that your body can use is calories. There's a misconception about caffeine. Caffeine's not really, they'll say it's an energy drink. The only energy that we have are our macronutrients. But I can a lot of times use negative talk or hatred as fuel. And I'll think about, okay, this is more ammo for me. This is more fuel for my fire. This is adding to what, it's not subtracting, it's adding to what I am doing. It's adding to what I am building. I can think about how people said, you're never going to make it. Or I can think about, I've had people tell me all kinds of crazy shit. I remember when I was bench pressing, people were like, oh, with that form, you'll never bench 600 pounds. And then I benched 600 pounds right in their face, and 700 pounds right in their face, and 800 pounds right in their face, and defeated every single person that guy had in his gym. And just like completely destroyed them by hundreds of pounds. And so you want, it's a good thing. These things that seem like they're negative can really be positive fuel. I liked what David Goggins said. He said, "Roger that." It's like, okay, that registered. I understand, but he's basically saying, "Fuck you." He's basically saying, "Hey, like, okay, I not only did I get that, but that's going to come back and bite you in the ass. Don't ever talk about me that way." And that's what you want to try to do. I saw the Queen movie recently, Bohemian Rhapsody, about the band Queen, and man, that was freaking awesome. But I've always loved their music, but I just don't even think I had any clue on how. I still don't think I fully understand how talented they really were. But one of the sayings in one of the songs, they we are the champions. They say no time for losers, which I think is great. Because you are the byproduct of who you hang around. But also in that same song, he says, "I consider a challenge from the whole human race to prove that I ain't gonna lose." Like I love that, and that's what your day to day should be. Like you're, and it's not really for anybody else. It just feels like that. It feels like you're gonna get in the end zone and spike the ball in your opponent's face. But really, the opponent doesn't care, and there's not really an opponent there. It's like it's just it's a mindset that you get wrapped up in. The same thing with when you're lifting and you're thinking about like people who said you can't. People don't really care whether you make it or don't make it. That's kind of interesting thing on why even people bother to be so negative sometimes. But that's just the way it goes, I guess.
So there's not a community, or there's not like a weekly meeting, a round table of people just going over how I'm going to miss the next lift. Like that's not a thing. I could have swore they are against me, but I guess they're not there. And it's kind of stuff we all make up in our head.
Yeah.
But it is good fuel though.
Yeah, no, it is. It is good fuel. And you could think about like, people said you're scrawny, or people said you're skinny, or like, man, that guy's tall and lanky. Like, he's not going to make this. Use that stuff for fuel. You can, we all have, fuel that we can use, and we've all had negative and hurtful things said about us and said to us. But the cool thing is when you lift, you can kind of iron those things out, and you can make it a positive thing by proving to yourself that you can do it. And then also too, you don't have to go that route with your lifting. You can go more positive, and you can kind of give yourself positive reinforcement. another route that you can go is like, rather than thinking of some of these external things, you can think about more internal things and think about the last time that you missed a bench press, and how when you're doing your tricep work that you're doing your homework. This is the work that's going to get me to that bigger bench press, and I want it. I'm here, I'm present, I'm working hard, and this is the exercise that's going to get me there. And I'm going to give it everything I got. I'm not going to be done until my triceps blow out. And those are the kind of things that you want to have going through your head. The last time you missed a heavy deadlift, and let's say your grip, you lost your grip at the top. I remember being at Westside Barbell, and Chuck Vogapool, he's pacing back and forth like a madman doing grip work, going from one grip exercise to another. I was like, man, I said, Chuck, I never seen anybody train a grip like that. And he said, I lost a meet because of it, and that'll never happen again. And he just walked away and went back to doing he was doing high rep shrugs, and then in between that he was doing this gripper machine. And I was just like, whoa, okay. Like, I get it. That makes sense. Okay. But you can tell he didn't have to think about what he said. He wasn't like, oh, well, the grip is, this is how you train it. And like, he didn't have to think about any of that. He just knew that he lost a meet because he lost his grip on something one time, and he was just never going to allow that to happen again. And the way that he was going to make sure that never happened again was by working hard. As I pointed out many times before, I cannot sell you on that this stuff is going to be comfortable. It can kind of start out as being fairly comfortable, and it can kind of start out as being fairly easy. But as it gets to be harder, it will feel harder. And as it gets to be more complicated, it will be more complicated. And there'll just be more at stake all the time. There'll be more stress. There'll be more weight. There'll be more this, more that. And people don't think that you get sore anymore. It's like, well, it takes more to get sore, but by the time you figure all that out, by the time you figure out how to even get yourself to be sore anymore, you may have made yourself really sore, because because you find ways of making things more challenging for yourself, and you find ways of making things a little bit harder. And that is what I feel I have been able to transfer over from the gym into my day-to-day life. And it's not anything great. It's not like I'm out with these great feats every day. But it's a little shit. Like, even just getting here today to the gym, I went to walk back to my car, and I always park kind of far away anyway, so I get in at least some walking. I park like 5 minutes away, so I figure 5 minutes there, 5 minutes back, that's a 10-minute walk. But then I also usually go a longer route even to get to the coffee shop that I'm going to, or wherever it is I'm going. Well, today I was like, you know what, let's just develop a new habit that, regardless of time constraints, we're going to make time for this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to deliberately walk away from the car for a few blocks and then walk back towards it. And so that's what I did. And, I did that today, and I've done it in the past before, but today I specifically said, like, just do it. And so not only did I just do it, but I had that second of hesitation where I was like, no, I told Andrew I was going to be at the gym, the podcast, and I was like, nope, overriding that, boom, walk. And I just started walking as fast as I could handle, because I'm like, if I sit around here, I'm going to talk myself out of it and be like, And it's like, no, this is what you're doing, and it's going to take you an extra 90 seconds. It's not the reason that you're late. You're late because you were taking too long doing other stuff, right? And so, take that advice that comes from within. Take that advice from yourself and fucking run with it, bitch. What you got, Andrew? You got poop?
No, it's definitely coming out the other side.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Hey now.
Yeah. So again, apologies everyone on the live chat. It wasn't too active today.
What's up with the podcast from yesterday?
So
when's that go on iTunes?
Yeah. So the Sean Baker and Lane Norton debate is up on iTunes today. You guys can go back and watch that on the YouTubes. And then the David Goggins interview premiered this morning. It was really cool. We had a bunch of people that checked in. It was kind of like a pre-recorded live feed. We had just a bunch of people listening and watching with me this morning at 6 a.m. It was an awesome turnout. So that's available right now on the YouTubes, and that'll be available tomorrow on the iTunes.
Yeah, and that was a great opportunity that David Goggins gave us to be able to interview him. It was untraditional, but we said yes to it because we're like, we don't care. We just want you on the podcast, and we'll do it whatever way we can. And that's also another lesson wrapped in there. Is like sometimes that's the way life is. Like you're not always going to get your way the exact way that you think. And a lot of times when you don't get your way the exact way that you think, it still works out to be pretty good. So that podcast actually was one of my favorites. Not necessarily just the content of it, but the fact that we had to handle it in kind of an unconventional way, and it ended up coming out so good. It's proof to me that we can do other podcasts like that. So it took somebody like David Goggins, and how fitting for it to be him to show us that, hey, you could do it another way.
Of course. Of course it would be Goggins.
Yeah, it's got to be him. So, check, you're going to see a lot of other stuff come out from that one single podcast, because there are a lot of gems in there. And you guys should definitely check it out when it pops up on iTunes tomorrow. And a great debate from Baker and Lane Norton. And any advice you guys have for us, keep it to yourselves. Any advice for us, stick it on the YouTubes there, or hit us up with a DM on Instagram. Power Project, Mark Bell's Power Project on Instagram. Slide into the DMs. Let us know, like, who do you want to see, and it might be good to do more guests that might be in debate of each other. It might be good to get who knows, get some politics on here or something. I don't know. Get some people that have way different vantage points on lifting. Maybe one guy thinks you should squat every day, and maybe one guy thinks you should squat once every other week. But let us know what you think. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Andrew and I really appreciate you guys. If you like this podcast, share it with somebody that will give a damn, and keep helping us pass on this message. This is Mark Bell's Power Project. That's all the time we got for today. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later.